Welcome back. Before we dive into this part, I highly recommend watching the first part of this series if you haven't already. There are plenty of fun facts you don't want to miss. You'll find the link to part 1 in the video description below. 51. 3.6 cans of Spam are consumed each second. In the U.S., Spam is the #1 brand for canned meat with 3.6 cans eaten every second. 52. Conception occurs most in the month of December. Improved sperm quality, ovum receptivity, and rising sexual activity in the winter months all contribute to the most babies being conceived in December. 53. Oreo has made enough cookies to go to the moon and back 5 times. Since Oreo was introduced to the market in 1912, over 450 billion Oreo cookies have been sold worldwide. 54. Hershey's makes 1 million miles of Twizzlers every year. Love M or hate M, there is certainly enough demand for Twizzlers for Hershey's to create over 1.6 million kilometers of it. Think about that the next time you slander Twizzlers. 55. The cream in a Twinkie isn't really cream. The sweet, buttery filling in Twinkies is actually Crisco, otherwise known as vegetable shortening. 56. The average American looks at 8 houses before buying one. Now that's a lot of choices. So much for the American dream house. 57. Soda fountain workers were called soda jerks. The workers were called soda jerks because of the jerking motion used to pump soda water. 58. There are 336 dimples on a regulation golf ball. The little indents on golf balls aren't just there to help you differentiate it from other sports balls. The dimples on a golf ball surface create a thin turbulent boundary layer of air that clings to the ball's surface, which affects the overall trajectory of the ball. 59. Corn dextrin is also used for glue on envelopes and postage stamps. Corn dextrin is used as a thickening agent in junk food and a binding agent for fireworks. 60. Germans eat twice as much chocolate as Americans. At 11.3 kilograms of chocolate consumed each year, Germans eat twice the amount of chocolate that Americans do. 61. Underground is the only English word that begins and ends with the letters UND. There's another one of the useless facts you can actually use to sound smart. 62. Alfred Hitchcock didn't have a belly button. He wasn't born without a belly button, but Alfred Hitchcock lost his belly button due to multiple gastrointestinal surgeries. 63. The word checkmate in chess comes from the Persian phrase shamat. Shamat means the king is dead. 64. The S in Harry S. Truman does have a meaning. Harry S. Truman may have said that the S doesn't mean anything, but it's likely he was just trolling the media. In fact, the S stands for 2 names, his grandfather's Ship Truman and Solomon Young. 65. Pennsylvania is misspelled on the Liberty Bell. On the Liberty Bell, Pennsylvania is misspelled as Pennsylvania. However, it was an accepted spelling at that time. 66. You spend 92 days of your life on the toilet. Based on a study with 2,500 respondents, the average man spends 1 hour and 45 minutes on the toilet, which is 92 days a week. 67. Venus is the only planet that rotates clockwise. Most planets rotate on their axis in an anti-clockwise motion. However, Venus rotates clockwise in retrograde once every 243 Earth days. 68. You have a 1 in 2 billion chance to live over 100 years old. Only 1 person out of 2 billion will live to be 116 or older. 69. The praying mantis is the only insect that can turn its head. Praying mantises are the only known insects able to rotate their heads from side to side. 70. Portugal is the top country for cork production. Out of 2,200,000 hectares of cork forest worldwide, 34% is in Portugal. With annual cork production at 200,000 tons, 49.6% comes from Portugal. They must be serious about their wine. 71. There are 1,710 steps on the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower has 108 stories and 1,710 steps. However, visitors climb up to the first platform. Not a fan of stairs? Don't worry, there are 2 elevators on the tower. 72. Rice is the oldest food we still eat today. In 2003, scientists recovered 15,000-year-old burnt rice grains in Korea. This makes rice the oldest known food that we eat till the present. 73. Some lions mate over 50 times a day. When lions are in heat, they mate every 20 to 30 minutes, mating almost 50 times per day. 74. Grace is the most popular boat name. Other choices? Feelin' Naughty, Aquaholic, Therapy, and Seize the Day. 75. Gene Wilder ate wax in Willy Wonka. For the tea time scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the candy flower cup that Gene Wilder chomped on was actually made of wax. Additionally, the chocolate river was made of actual water, chocolate, and cream that spoiled throughout shooting. 76. The first webcam was invented to monitor a coffee pot. In 1993, researchers at Cambridge's computer science department got tired of walking up to an empty coffee machine. So, they wired up a system that would stream images to the Trojan room that housed the coffee pot. 77. The holes in spaghetti spoons have a purpose. The single, circular hole in the middle of pasta spoons isn't just for draining. It is actually a measure for the serving size of spaghetti. The amount of dry spaghetti that fits snug in the hole counts as 1 serving. 78. Non-dairy creamer is highly flammable. Non-dairy creamer powder contains highly flammable ingredients such as sodium aluminosilicate. 79. Croissants are not French. You might associate croissants with French lifestyle, but the croissant is actually from Vienna. In the 13th century, it was known as a kipferl, a denser bread made in the distinct crescent shape. 80. Before the computer mouse was known as a mouse, it was known as the turtle. Manufacturers of the early versions of the computer mouse called it a turtle because of its hard shell and moving part underneath. 81. Snapple's 1001 real facts aren't true. In 2002, the manufacturers of Snapple began printing real facts inside the bottle caps. However, most of this information is outdated or simply myths. 82. Pencils are yellow because of Chinese royalty. In the 1800s, the best graphite in the world came from China. The Americans wanted to give a tribute to the Chinese for the graphite used in their pencils. Yellow means royalty and respect in China, which is why the Americans manufactured their pencils in yellow. To this day, the default color for pencils is still yellow. 83. The remote control was invented earlier than the television. 30 years before the first digital television, Nikola Tesla invented a teleautomaton that could control certain devices at a distance through radio waves. His first remote-controlled device was a remote-controlled boat in 1898. Since then, people adapted the wired remote for television. However, due to injuries, they developed it further to be a wireless remote. 84. Standard CDs are always 74 minutes long. Sony and Philips set the standard CD length in 1980 as 74 minutes based on Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. The executives decided that the standard CD should be able to fit the Ninth Symphony, giving it a 74-minute length. 85. Amazon box sizes aren't just random. Sometimes, Amazon ships small items in big boxes. However, it's not a mistake or a random fluke. Amazon has an algorithm for shipping which decides how all items should fit together. This algorithm is why you may sometimes receive a huge box for little items. It prevents the items from sliding around and colliding with each other. 86. Maps sometimes have fake places to prevent plagiarism. Plagiarism can be hard to avoid for mapmakers. After all, what should they do? Invent new places? You'd be surprised to know some mapmakers do just that. Cartographers can add wrong streets, fake towns, or other landmarks to prove whether a competitor mapmaker is copying their work. 87. The three most popular Western names in China are Jesus Christ, Richard Nixon, and Elvis Presley. What an interesting choice of personalities. 88. In Vermont, there is one cow for every 3.8 people. You may have read that the cow-to-person ratio in Vermont is 10-1, but it's actually not true. 89. A chainsmoker voiced E.T. Pat Welsh was an American actress who voiced E.T. The trademark rasp of E.T.'s voice is due to Welsh being a heavy smoker. However, she was uncredited in the film. 90. The average belly button has 67 species of bacteria. Your mom wasn't playing around when she told you to clean your belly button. According to research, the belly button is a rainforest of bacteria, with even previously unknown bacteria found in the 60 participants' navels. 91. There's an island that France and Spain takes turns owning every 6 months. From February till July, the Pheasant Island is under the governance of Spain, while in August to January, it is governed by France. 92. There are many words starting in Q that are not followed by a U. In North American Scrabble, acceptable words with a Q and not a U are chi, cat, kaid, kai, kadi, kof, kanet, trank, fakir, shekel, kabbalah, kabbalah, chindar, chintar, kindarka, bakanga, and qwerty. This applies for their plural forms as well. 93. It was said that Einstein couldn't speak fluently until he was 9 years old. The validity of this claim is contested, but the medical term for late talkers is still called the Einstein syndrome. It was coined by social theorist Thomas Sowell to describe children who developed speech later than normal. 94. A sponge can reconstruct itself in hours. If you force a live sponge through a mesh screen, it will rearrange itself after a few hours. 95. Over 10,000 Coca-Cola drinks are consumed per second worldwide. The 10,000 drinks per second includes other Coca-Cola products such as Fanta, Dr. Pepper, Sprite, and other Coke varieties. 96. Every second, over 2 million emails are sent. For each second on the internet, 9.4 websites are created, 3 million Google searches are done, and 672 people search for porn. 97. In the history of boxing, 4 men have been knocked out within the first 11 seconds of the match. The fastest knockout was from a 1947 match between Mike Collins and Pat Brownson. Collins was able to knock Brownson out with the first punch only 4 seconds after the first bell. 98. A coin toss isn't 50-50. The next time you're trying to decide something, a coin toss may not be the best idea. Typically, the chances for a coin toss is 51-49, not 50-50. If you flip a coin, there is a 51% chance it will land on the side that it started on. 99. You can't bring a Furby to the Pentagon. Since its release in 1998, Furbies have been a staple in the toy industry. You may find them adorable or creepy, but one thing for sure is that the American government doesn't trust them. If you've ever encountered conspiracy theories about satanic Furbies, you'd be surprised that Furbies are banned from the Pentagon. One of Furby's main features is speech imitation. Since most, if not all, of the communications in the Pentagon are confidential, they can't risk a rogue Furby leaking everything to the public. As of 1999, the National Security Agency has banned Furbies from the Pentagon. See for yourself if a Furby would give away all of your secrets. 100. The pig has the longest orgasm observed in mammals. The domestic pig, Sus scrofa domesticus, has the longest orgasm of any known mammal, lasting an average of 30 minutes. However, pig orgasms can peak at 90 minutes in some cases. Talk about pure bliss.